Good afternoon, Chairman Hines, Ranking Member Stile, the members of the committee. My name is Danielle Alvarado. I am the Executive Director of Fair Work Center in Working Washington. We're a statewide organization of low-wage and historically excluded workers. We've led many of the campaigns to pass and enforce the laws and successes that you've heard about today. Seattle's economy is strong because of our labor standards, not in spite of them. And our successes here provide a roadmap for the rest of the country. There are 4 key lessons that I want to highlight. The first is that local leadership on workplace protections matters, particularly for historically excluded workers. The success of the Fight for 15 meant 1 in 4 workers got a raise in Seattle. 100,000 workers who overnight had more money in their pockets to pay bills, to save up for emergencies, and to contribute to the local economy. Today, our Seattle minimum wage is $10 higher than the federal minimum wage, and the movement that started here has spread across the nation. Over the past decade, we have increased wages for 26 million workers by $150 billion. Our victories in Washington are not just about what we have won, but who has benefited. We have taken on some of the most deeply entrenched and racist exclusions from our federal labor standards. In Seattle, nannies and domestic workers worked together to pass the first municipal domestic worker Bill of Rights, establishing basic protections like minimum pay and rest breaks. And this year, for the first time, Washington farm workers are earning overtime. These victories are chipping away at an economic system that for too long has trapped workers of color at the bottom. Second, local government can quickly pivot, ensuring that workers are not left behind. The power of local leadership is clear in moments of crisis. As the pandemic hit frontline workers hard, we won first in the nation emergency hazard pay and sick time rights for gig workers. The city also moved swiftly to establish a relief fund, providing additional help to nearly 10,000 residents. These emergency measures were critical to keeping Seattle workers safe and healthy. And these crisis responses often pave the way for long-term solutions. That's why we continued to organize, which led the City Council to unanimously pass Pay Up, our permanent gig worker ordinance, just this past May. Third, strong labor protections require investments in enforcement. We know our rights are only real when they're enforced, and when that doesn't happen, it's people of color, Black workers, immigrant workers, and other historically excluded groups who are most likely to experience labor standards violations. That's why Seattle established the Office of Labor Standards, to build on the work of our state agency. To date, OLS has returned $25 million to more than 40,000 workers in Seattle. OLS enforces strategically. By focusing resources on priority issues and industries, it is able to recover more money for workers, close the enforcement gap, and hold bad actor employers accountable. Most critically, OLS has invested millions of dollars in partnerships with grassroots organizations like ours. When we fund community-based outreach and enforcement, we break down the isolation and fear of retaliation that so many workers, particularly the most marginalized, experience and what gets in the way of them coming forward. By combining community partnerships and strategic enforcement, we are able to ensure that our progressive labor standards really mean something to the workers who fought for them and who need them most. Last, strong labor standards require strong worker organizing. We are proud of our partners in government, and it's critical to understand the progress we have made here in Washington would not have happened without the leadership of workers. Time and again, we see that workers know better than anyone what needs to change about our economy. To make sure worker voices remain front and center, we create strong coalitions of community organizations, labor unions, and worker centers like ours. By coming together to win new protections at the state and local level, we're responding to the modern economy by building an inclusive labor movement that leaves nobody behind. While we've achieved powerful victories so far, there is still more work for us to do. Washington has no state income tax, which means too many workers struggle while the rich get richer. There's an urgent need to strengthen federal and state labor standards to bring them up to speed with Seattle. Our safety net has unacceptable shortcomings. We need universal access to unemployment, paid leave, and robust health and safety protections that recognize the realities of climate change. We need deeper investments in labor standards enforcement to make sure rights on paper are real in every corner of our state. No matter where we live, we all deserve fairly paid, dignified work. Seattle's workers have shown it can be done, and we are ready to continue leading the way. Thank you.